At this juncture, we're going to be hearing from some of the women, accomplished women in tech that we have selected to speak to you on various issues. We will start with the head of Nestle Business Services, Suzanne Diop, and she will be speaking on the role of female leaders in breaking unconscious bias in technology. Here's her profile.
The Ghana-India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT GIKACE presents FEMITECH Conference on 8th March 2023. Meet one of our speakers, Suzanne Diop. She is currently the head of Nestle Business Services for Sub-Saharan Africa based in Ghana. She was the head of the IT department of Nestle Central and West Africa region, as well as the supply chain head for Nestle in Nigeria. She has a long experience with Nestle and had the opportunity to work in Senegal, Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and Ghana. She is passionate about people development, self-motivation, and being who you are than what you do. She will speak on the role of female leaders in breaking unconscious bias in technology. Other speakers include Fatuma Tadoro, MD for Velisco Ghana Group, Engineer Dr. Lucia Japon, Associate Dean of Engineering, Academic City University College, and the keynote address by the Honorable Minister of Communications and Digitalization, Mrs. Asla Owusu Ekufo. Venue, GIKACE Auditorium. Time, 10 a.m. prompt. Call 0246 708 651 to register now.
And as I indicated, our first speaker is the head of the Nestle Business Services. That is Mrs. Suzanne Diop, and she will be speaking on the theme or the topic, the role of female leaders in breaking unconscious bias in technology. With a round of applause, let's welcome Madame Suzanne Diop.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely honored to be one of the speakers of very, very important. So when I was asked to come and speak with women in technology, I was a bit scared because I was like, but I am not a technical person, so I've not written any code. So why I am told to speak with women in technology. So this was about stereotyping. So, but then they said, but you are a leader. So your role will be how to support, to break the bias. Then I was more comfortable. All right. So I would like to acknowledge the Director General of the Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT, Dr. Collins Yeboah. Okay, Dr. Collins Yeboah Afari. Thank you for inviting me. I also want to acknowledge the presence of my fellow distinguished speakers and all protocol observed. So my name is Suzanne Diop. I am the current head of Nestle Business Service, Accra. So Nestle Business Service, Accra. Can we have the next slide? All right. So Nestle Business Service, Accra is a Nestle Shared Service Center. We are based here in Ghana, and we are covering the Sub-Saharan Africa. We have about 300 employees. Majority are Ghanaians, more than 90% are Ghanaians. But because we serve the Sub-Saharan Africa, we have also people like me from Senegal, we have Ivorian, Nigerian working with us. So we have average age of 30 years, and we are all interested in technology. Why? Because we are in charge of all the transactional activities of all Nestle companies operating in the sub-Saharan Africa. We deal with a lot of data, and we are very much interested in automation, robotics, process flow, automation, optimization, and we've trained the people to really learn how to solve problems, and we have so far started a very good partnership also with the Kofi Annan Center of Excellence in ICT. So, talking about myself, I think you've already seen the video. Maybe what you don't know is I am a wife, a mom, married with 3 kids. I speak French. So today you will have a speech in Franglish because I still kept my Senegalese and Francophone accent. So something you don't know about me also is that at school I was good in mathematics and science, but when I went to university, I was influenced by my mom to go to finance. Why? Because she was working for a multinational, and she said, I see that they pay a lot of money to people in finance. Why don't you do finance? So that's how I changed, and at the university, I went to business, and I learned finance and accounting. But it was good. So I learned something different, and here I am. So I started my career in finance, actually. I spent a lot of time in finance, about 10 years, before I started my expatriation. I started in Ivory Coast, then from Ivory Coast to Ghana, then from Ghana I moved to Nigeria, and I had another opportunity to come back to Ghana from Nigeria to lead the Nestle Business Service Center. Next. So now, before we start, because today is the International Women's Day, I just did some research, and I want to celebrate few ladies. Huh? I know that we have more, much more, but I just want to celebrate few ladies. The first one, you know her. Her name is Ada Lovelace. Do you know what Ada Lovelace was able to achieve as a lady? She's born in 1815. Who knows Ada Lovelace? Can you imagine? Ada Lovelace, I read that she was the first computer programmer of the world. It was amazing to see that it is a lady who wrote the first computer programmer. And then Katherine Johnson. I also read that she was a mathematician and a statistician, but her mathematics helped NASA to send astronauts to the moon. Yeah, I don't know if some of you have watched the movie Hidden Figures. So Hidden Figures movie was inspired by the story of Katherine Johnson. Now, the new generation, I also pick 3 role models in the tech industry. The first one is a Ghanaian. I'm sure all of you know Regina Honu. So I was also very inspired by Regina Honu because she's a software developer engineer who is teaching thousands of girls how to do coding. Yeah? So I was also very inspired by Farida Bedwi. Do you know her? All right. So I also just picked her in the net, but I never heard about her before. So I know that she's also really a role model when it comes to teaching girls in STEM how to do coding and also supporting people with disabilities. And last but not least is also a lady from Senegal that I know personally very well. Unfortunately, we don't talk enough about this role model. She's a world expert in artificial intelligence. Yeah. She's the first black woman giving a course in artificial intelligence at the Princeton University. Very good in artificial intelligence. She's a mathematician and a statistician. So I just thought it's good sometime to talk about this role model, to really, motivate our girls to embrace technology. Even though it's a domain predominantly male and white, let's also see that there is a minority of women who are really making significant impact in the tech industry. So now the topic of my speech will be about how we can support as female leaders to break unconscious bias in technology. So unconscious bias, what is unconscious bias? Unconscious bias is social stereotyping about certain groups of people that individuals form outside their own awareness. Okay, thank you. Outside their own awareness. So this is a simple definition I found also in the internet. Unconscious bias being social stereotyping about certain groups of people that individuals form outside their own awareness. Okay. Doesn't work. Okay. Yeah. So you can see what it means here. So you can see the brain here. So the brain is making us feel very, very safe when we are in front of people who are similar to us. And in the other side, it makes us avoid people that are different from us. Just to explain what unconscious bias is. It's something real and natural. Next. So it's about automatic preference of the brain, selecting people with whom you want to be with. And sometimes even you meet people for the first time and you feel comfortable with them, you love them without no reason. And from the first they start speaking to you, you feel comfortable, you agree with everything they say, you like them, and just because they look like you. And the opposite is also true. You can see people for the first time and you are very nervous around them because they are different from us. So that's how I try to explain what unconscious bias is about. And unconscious bias actually makes our work environment homogeneous, because we always, even when we recruit, we want to recruit people who look like us. And we always want to be with people who think like us and act like us. So bias makes us worry of outsiders. We don't feel comfortable when you have new people coming in with new ideas, or you have new solution, new technology. So it's really the enemy of innovation. When you are biased, you don't feel like having diversity in your team. So this is the topic of today, and we want to focus on gender bias, which is going to be the core for our discourse today. Next. All right. So what is the consequence of unconscious bias? In the history, like we all know, women have been underrepresented, especially in the technology. And this is leading to also an underrepresentation at leadership role level. So because we don't have enough women in the field, they are also not at the leadership level. So that's the consequence of not having enough women in the field. Next. Did you know that only 30% of the female are in the tech, part of the tech professional, against 70% of male in Africa? Yeah? Did you know that 37% of startups have, only 37% of the startups have at least one female leader in their board of directors, and that 40% of women are in software engineering. So these figures are really alarming. We really need to do something about it. And also some research confirmed that the most gender diverse companies are 48% more likely to outperform the least gender diverse companies. It's a fact. Yeah? So the more diverse you are, the more creative you are, because you have more ideas coming, and you do bigger innovation, and you touch more customers. Because if you know that women are, globally, we have more women in the world than men. So it's better to have women in the management. And why leaders should talk about unconscious bias? Why is it important that as leaders we should talk about it? Because it impacts recruitment. When you have a panel of recruiters who are biased, and here it's not only about male, because sometimes we think that it's only male that are biased about women. But we also, women, sometimes we are biased. We want to recruit, but we say, okay, for this particular position, I want to hire a man. It happens to us also, and I think most of the time. So we have to make sure that when we recruit, we really have some women in the short list of the candidates. We should not recruit having in mind that this position should be a male position, because men are more available, or because I don't want to recruit people who will go on maternity leave in 6 months' time, or I don't want to recruit young people, because if I recruit young girls, they will get married and they will not be available. Sometimes we women, we also have this stereotyping. And also the gender gap disparity. And even on the pay, you know, we have to also watch, because even when we do salary increase, sometimes we think that men have more responsibility. In the back of our mind, we can give a little more salary increase to men. It happens. And also naturally, because when we join also as female, because we are not all the time available, we can be absent for 6 months in the year. You know, when you go back to the workplace, you know, I have to judge you as if you were there for 1 year. So our colleagues, male, they can work 1 year without any disruption, but we cannot do it. That's why we talk about gender equity, because we are not 100% available as women, and also we are in Africa. In Africa, you know, the domestic tasks are for women. When you go back home, you cook. You know, it's a fact. Yeah, maybe now it's changing, but it's a fact. When the child is sick, it's the mom. Most of the time, it's the mom who takes the child at the hospital. And also, when you get back to work after maternity leave, you breastfeed. So you don't come to the office at 7. You will come maybe at 9. You know? So all these things we have to take into account. Leadership position. I realize that for some leadership position, we always think that it's only men who should be in that leadership position. We also have to make sure we push women to occupy a leadership position when there is an opening. But as women also, we have to be bold enough to, to take big projects. Because sometimes also we want to be in our comfort zone because we think that because we have a lot to do at home, let's not, take big project and then we will not be able to manage it. So certain stereotyping about career as well. You think that if you are a woman, you should go into more softer, type of job. You should go to, let's say, teaching or communication. Nothing against women in communication, but you feel more comfortable when you are doing business, marketing, human resource. Yeah, because even if I look at our companies, I mean, those roles are for women, actually. Not for women, but women prefer those type of job. And when you heard head of technical, chief engineer, huh? Even I realized that when we start talking about computer science, we as women, we were a bit afraid because we start thinking about, oh, this is going to be coding and very difficult. So sometimes we are the one stereotyping. So we should be bold. We should accept big job, big project, get ourselves more visible, and compete. Yeah. So that's why at leadership level, not only female leaders, but like you said, we need male also to advocate for women. Okay, next. Okay, here I just try to put some steps that we can use to break unconscious bias in technology. And the first step is about accepting that bias is a reality. It's a human being factor. If you are a human, you have a brain, you are biased. It's something we need to accept, and we need to be conscious about it so that we can, correct ourselves. When we feel that we are biased, we can also, when we see our colleagues being biased, we can talk to them, give them feedback, and we should also ask for feedback. So acceptance is important. We should also set gender-neutral standards, Even when you are posting for a job profile and you put certain words, women tend not to apply because if they feel it is too masculine, it is too male-driven, they will also run away. So make it neutral. Create diversity goals is important because if you want to improve something, you need to have goals that you can evaluate. Create inclusive culture and environment. Recognize leaders who are really practicing this inclusive and diversity culture in your team. And also, something we need to do is to upgrade our skills. Because, it's not because we have goals that we should, throw women into a job that they are not ready for. Because then they will fail, and then, they will lack confidence, and, they will quit. So let's also support women to upgrade their skills, especially when they go on maternity leave and they come back. After being absent for 6 months, some are even going to take 7, 8 months. In some countries, even 1 year before they return. Let's have a program, to bring them back to speed. Coach them, mentor them. It's important. Be intentional about building the confidence of the woman and recognize good inclusive people management. So these are the steps, I think, as leaders, not only female leaders, but as people in position of power, we have to really practice. Yes. And why is it essential to break unconscious bias? Because if it is properly addressed, I think the director said it, we will have this inclusive and diverse team. We will have more creativity. We'll do bigger innovation. We'll take better decisions because we have, more diverse talent pool, and we'll have higher business performance. We've seen it. And we'll have also job satisfaction, and we will be able also to retain and attract our talent. So it's very important for a company. It's not something nice to have, but it makes business sense. All right? Next slide. So my key takeaways is that creating a more inclusive tech space is a business imperative to access a wider talent pool. It's not a nice to have, it's a business imperative. But breaking the unconscious bias is not going to be solved overnight. It's an ongoing process. And like I said, it needs the commitment and the action from all of us, starting with us, but really from all of us. All the people who are at the position of power level, we need to help break the bias. Otherwise, we will be always behind in technology for women. So this is going to be my last slide. And I want to thank everyone for listening, and also to call everyone for embracing equity. We need to all embrace equity, like I said, because equity is a good path to use to get to gender parity. You know, start by being fair. Start by recognizing that women and men, they have different needs. Start by acting. Start by recognizing that you need to support with resources that women need to advance in their career. Thank you very much for listening.